It's time for Back in Time Brothers podcast. I am DJ Paulie, and as always, I have my brother Lou with me. Lou, how are we doing today?
Good. How are you, bro?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
I'm excited about today's episode. I just want to talk about you. I want to talk about your transformation from high school kid to DJ and where you are today. And I think hopefully everybody that knows you and admires the work that you do will kind of like to find out how you came about and what influenced you and really those early stories.
Okay. Well, I'm ready to go, so let's do it.
All right. So what year? Where are we going?
Okay, so we're going to go to my senior year of high school. It's actually my senior prom. And in New Jersey, how the proms are, it's couples get together, they get their tuxes, their dresses, they rent a limo, they go to the party, and then usually they go cruise around New York City in their limos is kind of usually what it's done. Well, we did the same thing. And so we're in New York City, we're driving around with two other couples, and we go to this nightclub. And I can't believe we got in.
Do you remember the name?
The name of the nightclub was called The Underground. And
that's a classic place.
It is a classic place. And so I guess they let us in because we were in tuxedos and dresses. We looked really nice. We go in and we're just amazed by, what we're seeing, all these people dancing and the lights and the sound system. And, so we're dancing, we're having a good time. And I remember, and this is what specifically kind of took me to that level. At the time, Rob Bass and DJ Easy Rock, It Takes Two was a big hit. And I know everyone knows that song. It takes two to make a thing go right. It was classic song. And I heard this song come on, and that intro was that, that really cool intro. And, and I looked over, and there was this DJ booth, and, I see this DJ in there, and he's got 3 turntables of this song going.
Hold on 1 second. 3 turntables?
3 turntables.
So I've seen 3 turntables before, but I think most people have always seen 2 turntables. So what's the key to three turntables?
Well, in most nightclubs back then, there was always 3 turntables in the booth. And a lot of the DJs would do they would do like an instrumental and then drop an acapella over it. So they would make their own songs and then maybe bring in some kind of background sound effect. So they had a lot of DJs use 3 turntables. I used 3 turntables at one point. I mean, it was when I got to that level that I could do that.
Yeah.
So I look over and there's this guy and I hear, he's got, woo, yeah, going, and that's going, and the beat's going, and then he's like, I want to rock right now, I want to ride. And he's scratching it up, and I'm like, everyone's dancing except me. I'm watching him, and I'm just like, I have never heard anything like this in my life, and I'm sitting here just staring at him, and I was amazed, and I was like, I asked him, and I go, who is this DJ? And his name was DJ Animal. Which fitted appropriate for what he was doing. He was an animal on the tables. It was amazing. And I just sat there and I watched him. I think the whole rest of the night, my date was like, come on, come dance. And I was like, no, I'm sitting right here. I'm watching this guy. And I watched what he did. And I didn't know what he was doing because this was all new to me. But I liked what he was doing. And for me, it just kind of it clicked. So the night ended. We went home and so on forth. The next day.
Quick question.
Yeah.
Is your date there annoyed that you ignored her and you just watched the DJ, or no?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, she's. I don't think we talked after that, but anyway, that's okay. I was a senior, she was a junior, so goodbye. No, I'm kidding. So literally the next day, I woke up and I said, I want to be a DJ. I want to do what that guy was doing, and it was probably about a week later. I bought 2 turntables, a mixer, an amplifier, and 2 speakers. And I went to Cimarama Sound in Totowa, New Jersey, on Union Boulevard.
Right.
Dave, who's no longer with us, rest in peace, my friend. I walked in, I didn't know what I was buying. I didn't know anything. This is all new to me. So I bought these 2 turntables, and they weren't even the ones that the DJs use. They were Techniques, but they were SLBD 22s. That was the model number, and it was a. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. You were going to say something?
Yeah, they're BDs, and that's belt drive. So you're using the
That is
belt
correct.
drive turntables. Yeah.
And the pitch control wasn't even like the slide pitch control. It was a dial.
Okay.
So you had to dial the pitch. It was the two hardest turntables I've ever had to work on in my life. I don't know what I was doing. And so, of course, like you'd start the record and you'd want to get that, that nice sound. It would go, it would go, speed up and everything. It was pretty hilarious. I bought a Newmark mixer, which was kind of like the staple to get. Yeah. I got a Technics amplifier. It was just like little home amp. And I bought 2 Ramza speakers. And Ramza was
I remember the Ramza speakers.
Yeah, the little white ones. They were really, really powerful speakers, actually. They were really good. And so that was my setup. And I remember setting this up in my bedroom on my dresser and probably annoying everyone in the house for hours, practicing and practicing and practicing, trying to mix records that should not be mixed at all. Just it sounded like World War III was going on, and the way the beats were flying. I had no idea what I was doing. It was. I mean, I really didn't. I didn't know.
Well, you had so much of a budget, so you can't buy obviously the best things. And unfortunately, the turntables, which are kind of important, you had to kind of skimp on those a little bit. So I imagine that, those were challenging, but in some ways, because you had a kind of a challenging way to spin, that when you upgraded, it probably made it easier. And you've already kind of been through some of those tough mixes and stuff, and you were able to do it easier.
Yeah, I don't even know if what you want to call what I did with those turntables mixing. It was more like kind of crash and burning, honestly. I was terrible. No, I was terrible. I was probably one of the worst DJs you've ever heard in the beginning. I was garbage. I mean, I knew that. And so what does a guy who's a terrible DJ do? Goes and starts a DJ business. Okay.
Of course.
With this equipment that I had. Hey, why not?
This is America.
But I teamed up with 2 of my buddies from high school, Lou and Doug, and we started a business called Notorious DJs. And we went with Notorious because at the time Duran Duran had a song Notorious out. Mm-hmm. And we kind of like that. No, Notorious. We kind of like that, so we went with Notorious DJs. We went and got business cards made up and we started booking parties, high school dances. Now we're going around with my system that I had, those tables. We had my Ramza speakers, and then we're like, okay, we probably need some more speakers. We started hooking up like home speakers.
Oh, nice.
Like, the big tall ones, the old. Yeah. We're hooking up these speakers, and like we went and bought like a strobe at Radio Shack, like a little beacon that spun around. We had like 2 lights on our light show, and we would set up on stage, and it was just, it was so bad. Like and we would get paid a couple $100 to do these dances and things like that. And our first dance we ever did was at, oh God, what was it? The school in Clifton. It was a Catholic school, Pope Paul VI, I think, Paul the Sixth.
Okay.
That was on Valley Road. That was our first dance that we did, and it was terrible. We were terrible. It was like the worst thing ever. But we kept pushing through. I kept booking some gigs here and there. I would go down to, now this is the time of vinyl, everyone. So I would go down and have to buy records, and you working in a record store, you didn't really sell records though. You were selling more cassettes and CDs, right, Lou?
But you always sold the 12-inch dance singles. That
Correct.
Vinyl was always something that was pretty consistent, especially during that period, because the dance scene, the club scene was huge. So that was always happening. And, we could always count on DJs coming in or just kids coming in. So, yeah.
Right. Well, I would go to a record store, and there was like these stores that were set up just like sold vinyl. That's all they did. And there was one in Paterson, New Jersey called Eclipse that I used to go to quite a bit. And then there was also one in Nutley called Face the Music that my friend Mario ran. And then there was another one in Lyndhurst, New Jersey called Mondo Music, where a very good friend of mine, Dave Mondo, ran this business. And I mean, he had every record you can imagine. He had a DJ in the store that would play the songs for you. If you liked it, you would buy it. which
No,
was
that's
great.
cool.
That was the smartest thing ever. So I would go in there, and at the time, like 12-inch singles were like, $4 a piece or something like that. I'd go spend $100 on records and come home with all these records, and half of them I didn't even know what they were doing. I was mixing like raw bass, It Takes Two, with like freestyle songs that the beats were completely off. It didn't sound right, but I was just trying to like figure it all out. So that's basically where I would get my music. Now this is 80, 88, 89, and those were some pretty good times with music. I mean, there was a lot of good stuff that was out on the radio. There was a radio station called KTU that really kind of catered to the dance scene. And people that don't know, like, maybe people like that weren't in the New Jersey, New York area, there was a lot of different kinds of music going on at that time. Obviously rap was big. You had your pop. You also had freestyle music, which is kind of like a Latin dance music. And there was a label called Micmac Records. And I know you remember them, Lou, right?
Sure,
Micmac Records. Sure. Mickey Garcia, Elvin Molina, they went and started this label. And that's basically where all the tracks were coming out of. So you had, and then plus you had your house music and other things and techno and things like that. But you had so many different, genres of music playing. You really, as a DJ, you had to buy everything. You needed to be on top of everything. Again, I wasn't DJing in any clubs, but the club DJs were getting, these exclusive remixes, and a lot of the DJs were making their own remixes in the clubs. I mean, that's what a DJ does. So, so that was a fun time, for that.
So you mentioned a lot of different forms of music there. So let's talk about talk to me what house music is. Talk to me what freestyle music is. What are the differences? Is there something that really stands out?
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, house music is just that I'm trying to think of like a really good house song that would really kind of bring you back to that time. It was just like a really good drum, a good bass, a good house beat, like like something like, just a really good feel, really good groove.
So
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Was house music, you weren't going to necessarily find house music playing on Z100 or something like that, right? I mean, that was house would be not more undergroundish kind of, or no?
Underground. KTU would play that kind of stuff like, later on. They would do like KTU was really cool. They kind of did these Saturday night dance parties. And so they would have different levels, stage 1, stage 2. Stage 1 was like your hit factory where they played like the commercial poppy stuff. And then, your stage 2 is maybe your house music and your dance stuff, that stuff that you won't necessarily hear on the radio, but you'll hear in the club scene. Freestyle music was the vocals, the guys and girl duets singing about love and things like that, but on a very dancey song. Like those of you that might know Stevie B, Part of Your Body.
Yep.
That was like a freestyle song. George Lamond is another one. Bad of the Heart, Coro, Noel, Silent Morning, things like that. Those are your freestyle songs that kind of started off. Then you had like, you had groups like Company B that did Fascinated. That was, a little bit earlier, but more dancey stuff, but that poppier, dancier stuff. Debbie Deb, When I Hear Music, was another big hit, things like that.
One of my favorite bands, and to this day, still just a great band and been around a long time, is Information Society. And I just love those guys because I think of dance music as being, if I'm going to be at a club, that's the kind of stuff I want to hear. I'm
going to tell you a funny thing about Information Society. They had a song hit called Running, which is a very big hit back in the day when I was DJing. I cannot tell you, but every DJ I have ever met or know has used the Running a cappella and remixed it with something else.
Sure.
It's just his voice, the song, and I mean, and I was fortunate. I got to see Information Society in one of the clubs I DJ'd at, and this was during the time like I Want to Know What You're Thinking. That really synth, really stuff they were doing. Really, what's on your mind? Great stuff. But when they did Running, the place went crazy. It wasn't the new stuff; it was the old stuff that everyone went nuts.
So that's cool. Is you saw them back in the day when they're probably in their prime, and I just saw them just a couple of years ago on the '80s cruise, and I think I even shot you some video of it. Those guys were insane. They were fantastic.
They sounded just as good as they did back then.
Oh
They
my
I mean,
God.
because I did see the video you sent me, and they were amazing. They were
Yep.
really good. Like it was like, holy crap, these guys are exactly what they were back in 89, 90, whatever, performing. So that's really cool that they still doing that. Yeah. So yeah, I mean that's a lot of the different kinds of music. That 1990 time, little bro, was really the freestyle era. It was freestyle music.
Mm-hmm.
Clubs would have these groups come in. They were called track acts, and they would come in and perform. They would sing like they might have one hit, and they would sing that one hit and then go home. They were done.
That's right. That's right.
But it would pack the place. It would pack the club. There'd be 1,000 people in line waiting to go see this one song because it was so popular, so big, and mostly a lot of the teen nights was because there's a lot of teen nights in New Jersey, like where kids under 18 and under, they have a night for them, and they go in no alcohol obviously, and they have a DJ, and they usually had these track acts that would perform.
I like that.
George Lamont, Johnny O and Cynthia, all these freestyle groups. Yeah, so
that's cool. All right,
it's kind of cool. So
let's do this. So we've talked, getting out of high school, 1988. You started the Notorious DJs. So what's the next? You started doing parties. So I know that I know where you got your start. So let's tell everybody how you got that start and what you were doing before that.
Okay, so the DJ thing, doing parties is okay. I'm still a teenager, so I'm going to Joey's in Clifton, which is by far the mecca of clubs as far as I'm concerned. Joey Barcelona, the owner, had this nightclub called Joey's. It was on Van Houten Avenue in Clifton, New Jersey. I remember the first time I walked in, I was just like, wow, this is so cool. And it wasn't a huge club, but it was a good sized club, and it had one of the best DJ systems I ever got to DJ on. But so I go in there and I'm kind of just watching the DJs. Again, I would go to clubs and watch DJs. I didn't really dance. I was like, all right, I'm going to sit here and check them out, And there was a DJ at the time, and his name was Danny Boy Marlin, who is to this day a very good friend of mine. And I'm watching him. And now this guy, now I'm seeing something I've never seen in my life. He has a keyboard in the DJ booth with him, and he's basically remixing the songs on the keyboard as he's playing live. And I'm sitting there going,
"Slow down a second. Wait a minute. What do you mean he's remixing it? He's
okay.
He like recording it and then he's playing it back.
He's actually playing it live, doing it live as a remix. Like there was no practicing. He did it right there on the spot. So like I will never forget. I guess he had taken the parts of songs and put them into into his keyboard. And the song was CNC Music Factory, Everybody Dance Now. Okay. A classic. And, and he was sitting there and he was actually playing the remix on the keyboard live in the club. So he's doing whatever he wanted to do to make it sound completely different. Well, everyone's asking him, what record is that? Where did you get that record? I made that. I just did that now. It's like, holy crap. And I sat there and my jaw was probably on the floor the entire time as he did it. And so I went up to him, started talking to him a little bit. And I started becoming friendly with the guy, hanging out with him a little bit. And he goes, hey, we're looking for a light guy here. You should do the lights. And I was like, oh, who do I talk to? And he goes, oh, hold on, I'll get the owner. And Joey comes over and he goes, hey, this guy, we need a light guy. We should hire him. And Joey's like, okay, you're hired. You start right now. So I started doing the lights. I learned all the lights, and pretty cool light system. And, he paid me like $75 a night to do the lights or something like that. It wasn't even about the money at that point. It was just, I'm in the booth now. Yeah. So now people are coming in the booth and like, oh, who's this guy? He's in the booth. He must be important, quote unquote, which I wasn't. But then I started doing like 2 or 3 nights a week there doing lights. And the other DJ I did it for was Jerry DeMeo. Again, another great friend of mine. He was actually doing teen night. And this is I'm going to take it right to the story if that's okay. Take it right into where I got the break. And this is a great story, and we talk about this story all the time. Me and him will talk about it, and it never gets old for us. It's so much fun. So it was September 29th, 1990.
Oh, you even know the date. I love that.
I know the day, September 29th, 1990. Jerry DeMeo's in the DJ booth. I'm in there with him. There's got to be 1,000 kids there. I'm probably lying about the number, but it was packed. That night, George Lamond was performing, and George Lamond, "Bad of the Heart" was his big hit at the time. So I'm in there, I'm doing the lights. We're having a good night. It's a good start. All of a sudden, he gets a phone call, and again, no cell phones at the time, guys. He gets a phone call at the club. His wife is going into labor.
So this
and
is Jerry's wife.
Jerry's wife,
Okay.
Terry, is going into
Yep.
labor.
Okay.
Yes. He looks at me and he goes, "You got to take over." And I went, "What?" No, I can't take over. And I was like, humming. No, I can't. Exactly. I was like, "Oh my God, you don't understand. I've DJ'd a little bit, but I've never DJ'd on this system, And he goes, "No, you'll be fine." Well, now the difference is, this nightclub had 3 Techniques 1200 turntables. Okay, those were direct drive. It had a Uri knob mixer, so it wasn't a slide crossfade; it was a knob. I've never worked on a mixer like that. I had no clue. He goes, here's my headphones. There's my records. It's all you, buddy. You got it. And I was so scared. I had all my friends there, people I knew, because it was a teen night. And I remember I said, well, here it goes. And I got on there and I started to DJ. I started doing, I think I did a good job.
Let's do you remember the first thing you played?
The first song I played, oh yes, I do actually. That's kind of funny. The very first song I played, it was "Snap the Power."
Oh, great song.
Because he was playing a freestyle song, and then I just said, "Oh, I'm going to just change I got to change it and like do something I know." So I grabbed it, and I was the first, and he had 2 copies of the record. And so I put them both on, and I went into the, the beginning, the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got the power. And I don't know what happened that night, but I basically just started going back and forth with the record and just, I don't know if the DJ gods were with me that night or whatever, but thank you. And I kind of killed it. I rocked that club that night. And at the end of the night, the owner came up to me and says, "You're hired. You're my new teen night DJ." And I said, "What about Jerry?" And he goes, "Oh, no, Jerry, we're moving him to a different night. It's okay." Jerry was a little bit older than I was. I was a younger kid. And he's like, "I want a younger kid to do the night. I think you can fit with the crowd, and you're hired. You start next Friday." And I had become the teen night DJ.
That is awesome.
At Joey's in Clifton.
I love that. So when you performed that first night and you spun for the first time, were you engaging the crowd, or were you just so like absorbed into I got to spin, and I'm not like yelling stuff out, or how did you do that?
Okay, so let me explain that, because the in the nightclubs, the DJ really doesn't do a lot of the talking. They usually have an MC, and the MC that night was Beta. There's a guy named B2B who is one of my good friends, and he was known for saying, good God, yeah, boy." That's how we talk, really cool. Really, I mean, he would get the place going nuts. And he'd be like, and he'd sit there and he'd go, "Come on, Paulie, let's go rock the house." And he'd be saying these things. And it kind of pumped me up, and and he'd come in and he goes, "Hey man, you're doing a great job. Don't worry. Keep it up. Just keep playing the songs. I got you out here. We'll be okay." And he made me feel very, very comfortable. And so it was super easy. And then, the next day, Jerry called me and he goes, "Oh, you took my job, huh?" And I was like, no, I'm kidding. And he had a baby girl, and her name is Nicole. And I am actually friends with her on Facebook.
Oh, that's
and
great.
she's awesome. And we talk about the story. And Jerry DeMeo has been just if it wasn't for him and Nicole being born, I probably would have never got a break. I don't know. So I am very, very grateful and just humbled upon belief to even have gotten that chance to DJ there in one of the hottest clubs in New Jersey. And just for Nicole being born, thank you. So thanks, Nicole, for being born that day. I got my break. So yeah, very cool.
I remember when you started and how you always mentioned Danny Boy and Jerry as being those guys that really mentored you through the beginning. And, I'm probably further, more than that, but it's great to hear that story.
And there's so many other DJs that, have been played such a part in my life. I mean, there's I could sit here and go on forever, with, Kirk Lopez and, Johnny Buds and I mean, just so many people, Glenn Frisha and Roman Ricardo, the big names in New York, and Mike Rizzo. And I mean, these are all guys, and the Jersey DJs. There were so many Jersey DJs that were just phenomenal DJs. I mean, Franco Iamello, he was over at Chicago's. I mean, just amazing DJs, that the things they did. And there's just all the other guys that have been in the music business, Eric Klein and Ace Hart. And I mean, I could go on forever, and just talk about names. And I could probably just spend an hour talking about all the DJs that have just been a part of my life, but we're not going to do that. So, but they know who they are. And if they don't, you guys have been just, thank you so much for being part of making me a better DJ and just being part of it. I really appreciate that. So, but that was the Joey's thing. And the Joey's led to so many other things, bro. There were so many other clubs that, they owned a club down the shore called the Surf Club. That was the place to be on Sundays. That was the place.
All right. So you establish yourself at Teen Night. Is there anything else within Joey's? Did you do any other thing other than Teen Night, or no? That was your.
I did. No, I did Teen Night, but yes. When the summer kicked off and down the shore, obviously, everyone went down to the Surf Club, and I got a chance to DJ the Sunday Jam. It was Memorial Day weekend, which is the biggest weekend of the year. I mean, everyone's there. And it was Jerry DeMeo, myself, and Mike Rizzo, the three of us.
No.
And here I am, this, basically been DJing for 3 months, 4 months, 5 months. And I am now DJing, at the Surf Club with these two guys. And just like, wow, there's thousands of people, and it's an all day affair. It's like 1 o'clock in the afternoon till 3 a.m. So it's a long day.
So let's try to set this up for folks that, people that have seen like the Jersey Shore or something like that, and the period that you were doing this, kind of set up what that whole vibe was down there.
Okay, so obviously it was a lot of high hair, a lot of Aquanet for the women with their hair up high. The guys actually, and I'm guilty of this, it was a time when Guidos were big. And the Guido thing was, it was the spiked hair and the tan and the gold chains. And I'm driving either an IROC or a Mustang GT. Those are the cars I'm driving. And everyone had systems in their car. And, that's Reeboks and Cavaricis. And Cavaricis were kind of pants that they wore that had a white label in the front. And they cost like 60 some bucks a pair. I got a job at Merry-Go-Round just so I could buy them and get a discount. That's how bad it was. But that's what it was. And in the summer, obviously, the girls were in bikinis and the guys no one had a shirt on. All the guys everyone's all built and muscle guys. They're like, everyone's name is Vinny and Tony and Rocco and, hey, Guido, what's up? And it was a big, it was a hookup. It was a meat market. Yeah. People went to the club to hook up and dance.
Sure.
And that's what it was. But it was good times. It was great times. People danced and had fun. And it was, there were fights and there were things like that. But it's nothing like how the Jersey Shore show on MTV is. It's not like that. It was way better and different. Trust me. Those guys on the show made the Jersey Shore look bad. Back then it wasn't like that. It was a lifestyle. It really was. And the summer, you either went to the Surf Club or you went to Temptations. Those were the two clubs you went to. And those were the two places you wanted to be.
And where exactly was the Surf Club? Where was that at?
Ortley Beach, New Jersey.
Okay.
Ortley Beach.
Yep.
Right next to Seaside Heights.
Yep. Okay.
And then Temptations was in Seaside Heights. So a lot of people would go to the Surf Club during the day and listen to, Danny Boy, Mike Rizzo, Jerry, all the other DJs that were there. And then they would go to Temptations and they would listen to Franco Iamello or when Denny Chetos took over and was doing Temps and things like that. And that was the places to go. I mean, there was tons of other clubs down the shore. Don't get me wrong. Hunka Bunka and Martell's Tiki Bar and all those kind of places. But I didn't DJ at those places. So we're talking about where I DJ'd at. So yes.
Yeah, that's cool. And so we're talking summer of 1990. And so when you're done doing the
Yeah.
surf club thing, then you go back to doing more at Joey's.
Well, unfortunately, Joey's did close down.
Okay.
He closed the club down and he opened up a club called Yakety Yak, which was more geared towards the older people, 50s, 60s, 70s disco. That wasn't my cup of tea at the time. I'm like, okay, wait a minute. I'm like 21 years old, 2021. I need to be in a nightclub experience. So I was working in Hoboken, New Jersey. There was a club called Shooters that I DJ'd a little bit with Danny Boy. But then I went to the Hop in Totowa, New Jersey. And the Hop was the old, I believe it was the Outrigger. Was that the name of the restaurant?
Yeah, it was the Outrigger. It had been something else before that too. There's a couple different names, I think, but Outrigger
Lou Duva's or something like that, or
it was Duva's place. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And so so that became a nightclub, and it became the Hop. And then Thursday nights and Sunday nights were the two biggest nights. They basically took the Sunday Jam from Joey's and brought it to the Hop. So now Danny Boy was DJing there, Frankie Fingers, myself, Jerry DeMeo.
I love
we were
these
DJing
names.
at that club, and that had a nice run until they got Frankie Fingers. Yeah,
Fingers, love that.
Frankie Fingers was good. Yeah,
it's like we're doing a mob show here.
Well, it might be. I can't talk about that, but but it's fun stuff. It was the same kind of DJs kind of made their way around to the different clubs. So there was like in Jersey, there was North Jersey. You had your same kind of North Jersey DJs, if that makes sense. And then your South Jersey DJs were kind of the same South Jersey DJs. I mean, they did guest spots and things like that. But, at that time in the early 90s, it was Jerry DeMeo, it was Frankie Fingers, it was myself, Danny Boy Marlin, Andrew Mendez was doing a lot of stuff in New York. But, I mean, there was a lot of those guys doing like kind of the local scene. So
cool. That's great.
Yeah.
So then after you were done doing the Hop stuff, what followed after that?
There's just a handful of clubs. I mean, I was at a lot of different places. I bounced around. I went from after the Hop, I went to River Street in Hoboken. Club Diamond in West Patterson was another one, which was kind of a teen club, if I'm not mistaken, which is weird. And then I did the Docks in Totowa, which was a really big. I was in the Holiday Inn in Totowa, that nightclub in there. Yep. And then just kind of bounced around to a lot of different places. I mean, clubs came and were gone. They were there for a while, they left, and a new one opened up. Then a new one opened up. It's just that kind of that turnaround, that turnover was, the nightclub business, because everyone was opening clubs. There was, I want to open up a nightclub. And they always try to get the best DJs in to do their nights. And when you have too many clubs and you can go to one club and hear the same music. Why keep opening a new club? It's just hard to do. I mean, I think so. So, the summer, that's different because everyone goes down the shore. So you can do a lot down there. People go down for the weekend. It's like, oh, I can hit 4 or 5 different clubs, and that's awesome. But North Jersey, like when the summer came, the clubs in the up north were dead. They were not busy because everyone was down the shore.
Sure.
So, but I bounced around and did that. I took a little break for a while. I stopped DJing for a while, and then I got back into it again. I talked about retiring a bunch of times, and they never let me leave. George Cali, another one, won't let me retire. He says I'm forbidden to retire. He told me so. But it's nice to have the support of those people like that. And George Cali is a amazing producer and DJ. So for him to say that means a lot. And then I moved. I left Jersey, and I went to North Carolina, and I DJ'd down there a little bit. I did more parties and stuff, but and then ending up back in North Dakota, going back to North Dakota, where I started my own business here. So
yeah. So you had a period there. I mean, and I don't know what the time span was, but it's like when the club scene kind of dried up a little bit, when things weren't as active, let's say. And then you kind of moved on, got married, and things changed. Obviously, that was a big thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kids, everything kind of changes after that. And North Carolina, I don't remember you ever really talking about really DJing much down there. And maybe you just did some limited things, but you didn't work at a club or anything like that. But then North Dakota happens and you make the big move. And this is later in life for you. And I don't think North Dakota has ever seen anybody that has that kind of experience and that creativity, because let's face it, today anybody thinks they're a DJ. They've got their iPod and they can plug it into something, and they start, trying to make music. But what you do versus what other DJs do, it's completely on a different level.
Well, and that's from me watching all these other DJs in my career, watching what they've done. And, they do, these old school guys. We do, if you put a pair of turntables in front of a DJ today, they wouldn't know what to do. They would have no clue how to work those turntables, because now everything is electronic, is digital. They have buttons where you could sync the beats per minute so they match it. That's not being a DJ. A DJ is, okay, what am I going to mix with this song, and figure it out. And then, you make it work and you fit it in there and you do something to it to make it sound different than anything else you've ever heard. You want people coming up to you and going, hey, what is that song? I'm doing it right now. Like just like Danny Boy did with me and other DJs that I've watched. And they said, oh no, that's not a record. I'm making it right now as I'm doing it. That's where I tip my hat to those guys. And, they've paved the way for people like myself. And I hope I paved the way for, some other younger people that have watched me at some point, DJ and everything. But, here in North Dakota, it was the first DJ I ever heard. I was like, oh my God, what's going on? What are they doing? And again, they haven't had the experience I have. They haven't been fortunate enough to work in the places I have, working in New York, New Jersey, Vegas. I got to do those kinds of things where they haven't. And so I think I've brought a different level of expectation to North Dakota, I think, because, you were here when you came to visit me for my birthday, and I was DJing up on the rooftop. We had that party up there, and people were coming up to me going, oh my God, like, you're amazing. And trust me, I love to hear that, but I don't feel like I'm amazing. I just feel like I'm doing my job. I'm having fun playing music, making people dance. But it was nice to get those compliments, obviously. And it's always nice to hear that kind of thing. And even watching your face when you were watching me DJ,
Yeah, it's funny. Through the years, I've only really gotten to see you just a few times because I was just at a different stage in life. We didn't always live in the same areas. I had family, business travel, and such. So anytime I got that opportunity to see you live, it really made me feel so good and so proud to see my younger brother up there doing something that he's been working on through his entire life and just honing a craft, and still cares enough about what he does that he always gives you something fresh, new, and exciting every time you play. And I thought, just being able to see the reaction, that's wonderful.
Well, I appreciate that coming from you, because I always looked up to you when you were on your drum set and thinking, wow, there's my brother. So, hearing that from you, from my big brother telling his little brother that means the world to me. I mean, it's always nice to, have your family. Obviously, your family is your biggest supporters. Obviously, obviously my mom, our mom, how she is. She's, sure. Oh, you're the best, and thanks, mom, but you're supposed to say that. What are you gonna tell me? I'm the worst, Louis, you're the worst drummer ever. Good job. And I'm the worst DJ, but it was always very nice. And it is so nice to see your face that day. You were smiling, and you were just like so into tune to what I was doing. And you were really curious. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, you were, it meant a lot. And and that's my point. That's what I try to do. I just want people to look at it and say, wow, it really is an art form. And it really is. There's a lot of creativity that goes into DJing, what you're going to mix with what, making one song sound like three songs, whatever the case may be. And there's a lot of DJs that can do it well. And then there's a lot of DJs that can't do it well. And, all I can say is I was one of those DJs that couldn't do it, and I just kept practicing and practicing until I could. So my thing would say, just if you really are into this, don't quit. Just keep going. Keep pushing yourself. Keep learning. Keep mastering your craft. That's the only thing you can do,
So I've got a question. Do you think there is or probably a couple questions here. So you coming from the old school way of mixing with turntables and vinyl, and then moving to the
Mhm.
new digital way, um, was that a steep learning curve? That's one question. And the other thing is, if someone who is just used to digital, they would really have a tough time going back to a very manual way of doing things.
So to your question one, no, I mean, it's always learning something new. It's different than what you're used to. So there's always a little bit of, okay, I got to practice this a little bit. I got to, it is difficult, but I will tell you on a perspective of equipment wise, it's easier to transfer your equipment to one location to another. You're not carrying 20 crates of records and all these tons of speakers and amps and things like that, a coffin full of turntables and, just like crazy amount of equipment, So yes, in that sense, it is nice to have the digital because it's a lot easier to transport. For a DJ now, for part two of your question, for a DJ now that is doing the digital and has never messed with the turntables, the mixer, 9 out of 10 of them, I'll tell you what, I'll put money on it that they're going to struggle and they're going to have a hard time. They wouldn't get it. Because they're not used to using pitch control. They're not using that kind of stuff. They're using to hit a button that says sync and it matches their beats together. Well, that's not a talent.
Yep.
That's someone pressing a button. I could teach anyone to do that, So get a couple pair of turntables, get a mixer, and get some vinyl, and then try to do the things that you do on that system, the digital, and try to do it on the turntables and see if you can do it. And then I'll be impressed.
Do you have like a top 5 songs or even a top 1 or 2 that you love to open up a show with? Kind of like the way we always talked about concerts and how to start a good stage show in a concert. Is there something that is a go-to for you?
It really depends on, I guess, the nightclub or what I was doing. But I would say probably in the, let's go early 90s, mid 90s, somewhere in that range. There was a song I used to love to do, and it was called "O Fortuna."
Oh, of
and it was
course.
by
Carmina Burana. Yeah.
it was it was a remake of the Orff opera, Carmen Burana, right?
Yep.
And I would start off with that. And it was a techno song, and that was a great way to open up. Like if coming off a different, like you wanted to change the whole feel of the nightclub, that was a great way. And if you had Beta, your MC, with you, he would go right in. He used to play a bugle with it and do all just crazy stuff, man. He was great. And he'd start yelling stuff in German. Yeah, it was Beta was crazy. Yeah, he was nuts. And so it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. That's a great song to do. I love that, and I love "Rhythm Is a Dancer" by Snap. I love that song.
Yep, that's cool.
Yeah,
that's cool.
But there was a mix I always used to do. There was a mix I did that you loved, and it was BG, the Prince of Rap. This beat is hot.
I remember that.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, yep. And I love I love those things that you and I would key in on. There'd be something that either I heard you do or I said something like, "Hey, I like this song," and then you do something with it and made it even better. That's great. I mean, that's just like I'm always into 3 a.m. Eternal, and anytime you play that, I just dig that.
Oh, it's KLF, yeah. Yep. KLF is gonna rock you. That's great. Oh man, it's good stuff.
Yeah, because it really gets you going. And then what a fantastic video that was too. Gosh, that was cool.
It was so good. Yeah, such a good thing. But that was that whole time too. That was during the Snap time, KLF, that kind of like techno-ish kind of groove going. It was fun stuff. There was so much music. I mean, we could talk about music forever. There's so many different things out there. And in the clubs, you had to play everything.
Yeah. So I know we've played around with different episodes of different themes, and we covered kind of our upbringing, where we've been, different types of music during those years, during those high school years and later in life. But it'll be fun to focus in on some of the music, because as we're talking about this dance music, and I'm a guy who's really about rock, but you've hit on some songs that there's certain songs that cross over for me for some reason. Either it's the beat or it was a video, like Pump Up the Jam or something like that. There's just certain things that will hit me, or MC Hammer or something. The ones that really stand out. I was never into the real freestyle too much, though Stevie B wasn't bad. But I love to talk about some of that music. It's too bad we can't play the music, because it'd be so much fun to be able to play little snippets.
I know.
But you only had the rights to do that.
Yeah, it would be great to do that, unfortunately.
Yep. So it's really
only
good
had
stuff.
The rights. Shucks.
But that's great. So that's good insight into, you get your start because your DJ friend's wife is having a baby. And so many times in life, there are things like that have happened where something, a guy gets injured on the field and somebody steps in and they end up taking the position. So here was something kind of similar to that, where not injured, but, a medical emergency, and you get your opportunity. And the key is, you've got to be able to step in and be ready for that opportunity. So you had been watching these DJs, you had been practicing, and then you were ready.
Absolutely. And, and thank God that when I did get my break, that I didn't suck at what I did. I was good. So, because that would have been worse going in, taking over this guy's spot, like, okay. And then I sucked at what I did. And, my goal was just to make sure that I did a good job, because for him, this was his night. And you're putting a lot of pressure on someone who's never DJed in a big nightclub to say, okay, take over and make sure you do good. Take care. I'm out of here, and so my big plan was just, please don't suck. Just do good. Just get by. I don't care what happens after that. I just want to make it.
That's great. Anywhere else you want to go?
No, again, I'm just very fortunate. I've been doing this for 30 years, and, being 50 years old, and just last, couple weeks ago, it just was a 30-year anniversary of my first night DJing. So, I'm very fortunate and very happy that I'm still going. And, a lot of people out there who still support me, and thank you for that. And again, all the DJs, please, everyone out there that I'm friends with on Facebook, everyone, you guys have all had an impact on me and have made me a better DJ. So I thank you guys for that. And all the artists and everyone else that I've gotten to meet and talk to and work with, thank you so much. It means so much.
Yeah, that's great, bro. I love hearing about everything, revisiting some of those stories and those memories. And I'm just so glad that you're able to still do it, and you have people that support you, and the great feedback that you get. And it's just wonderful to see, because how much music means to us, and that you still get to perform it, which is really cool.
Very lucky. And really, really funny story real quick. That first concert we went to, Missing Persons, back at Great Adventure years ago, that first concert I saw, that was the first kind of real live show that I ever saw, like really big show. And I remember, and I think I told you this, that I remember seeing what they did up there and how the crowd reacted to them. And something inside of me, I just knew that I wanted to do that, and some kind of venue, whether it was some kind of avenue to do it, whether it was being the star, being a backup, but I wanted to entertain and be on stage and have people, kind of cheer for you or clap for you or just appreciate you. I knew that's what I wanted to do. And I've been very lucky that I got to do it. So.
Yeah. And you found a way to do it that you didn't decide to play an instrument or sing or something. You came across this DJing and you turned it into something. That's really cool.
Yeah, well, thanks, DJ Animal. You made it happen for me. DJ Animal, raw bass, it takes two. That's what changed my life.
That's great. That's awesome. All right, bro. Should we wrap her up?
Yeah, I think so. I hope I didn't bore everyone. I hope everyone liked the story. It just brings back good memories for me, and I had a lot of fun telling you guys about it. And it's always nice to hang out with you, bro. I enjoy spending some time with you on our podcast, so that's always nice.
Oh, I look forward to it. So it's it was fun today, because it took me back to Jersey back in the late 80s and 90s, and just reliving some fun times. And I love the you mentioned something real quick. I know we're wrapping up, but when you said merry-go-round, man, I kept thinking about, remember Chess King and
Chess King. Gene Country was another one.
Yeah, Benetton with all their colors.
Yes,
oh my God,
Benetton.
I love
and then I remember the Swatch watches with the
Yeah.
Oh, it's great.
Yeah.
Great stuff, man. The Cavaricis, the IOU sweatshirts. Oh yeah.
Members
Reeboks with
only.
the different colors. Oh.
Yep. Members only
Oh
jackets.
yeah. Members only jackets. Yep.
So
Man,
good.
that's great. We could probably do a show. We could probably do a show about the dressing, the dress clothing in the 80s and stuff.
Yeah, maybe we can, instead of singling out years, we can certainly talk a decade and really highlight a lot of those things, because sometimes it can be a little bit too specific, but it's fun to kind of bust on the trends, the fashion, besides the music and movies and TV that happened during those periods. That'll be a lot of fun to do that.
Right. I agree. Sounds good.
All right, let's wrap her up.
So we're gonna take it off, call it a day. Thanks for tuning in and listening to Back in Time Brothers podcast, and we'll see you on our next episode. You guys have a great one. Take care.
See you guys.